Welcome to another edition of The Barking Dead.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of EPL on Pub.
Class is in session, hitting the books on Pub Sports.
This is another exciting edition of the main event on Talking Ants.
Welcome to another edition of the College Football Pub Hub, Pub Sports Radio, Saturday, December 30 in Cameron. Conor Mac, DJ Big Boss, Big Ragoo. The whole crew is here and excited for Conference Championship Saturday. We will break down every game. You know what I love about today's show? We don't have to fucking rush through any of the games. We can take our time. We can really dissect these games, analyze them in full. If we want to talk for a few minutes about each game, we've got the time on the show today to do that. So looking forward to having an in-depth discussion with the games taking place today, which is not usually the case when we have a loaded Saturday card. We try to get through every game each week. I just want to lay out the way the show is going to go the next few weeks. We've got 3 shows left, including today. So we've got our conference championship show today. We're going to have 2 Saturday Bowl preview shows the next 2 weeks. We're going to do one next Saturday for the first half of the bowl schedule on next Saturday's show. We'll also throw in the Army-Navy game next Saturday on the show, and we'll talk about that, see if anyone's got a strong feel for it, side or total. Because that game is next Saturday, and it's the only game in college football next Saturday. So Army-Navy plus the first half of the bowl games next Saturday morning on the Pub Hub show. And then the following Saturday, December the 17th, we'll do the second half of the bowl schedule right here on the show. And that will be our final Saturday show of the College Football Pub Hub, December 17. We will come back on the day of the national championship game, which is Monday, January the 9th. We will do a national championship special edition of the College Football Pub Hub as well. So that's basically the schedule here for the rest of the season. Before we get into today's games, because we got a little extra time, how about a little look back at what we saw last night? I guess the minor detail was UTSA. Sorry to say, Jose, it's not the headline story last night in college football, but congratulations to UTSA. Meet the Roadrunners, Conference USA champions once again as they get the win and the cover over North Texas last night. Frank Harris and that offense, Sakari Franklin, nobody could be stopped on that offense. Did a terrific job up and down the field all game against North Texas, deserving to be Conference USA champs. And then the big news last night, the big headline story coming out of Friday night, USC Pac-12 championship, Rose Bowl dreams dead, college football playoff dreams dead, and now they go down to Utah last night in decisive fashion. Really, they came out storming, and it's hard to believe that game started 17-3 for USC, but Caleb Williams and the offense looked like they were not going to be stopped for the first part of that game. And then it just changed completely, partially because Caleb Williams clearly got injured on the big run that he had. He was never the same. His mobility definitely got taken away completely from that point on. But you also have to credit the Utah defensive line. I mean, they got after it, multiple sacks. They collapsed the line of scrimmage. They blew it up repeatedly. I know the USC offensive line had some injuries as well. That didn't help trying to fend off those pass rushers of the Utes. And as the game went on, he just got beaten up. I mean, he was taking some wicked punishment, Caleb Williams, as that game went on, and it allowed Utah to just really shut down. They had some timely turnovers forced as well, including that interception of Caleb Williams when they were inside the red zone in the fourth quarter. USC looked like they were going to try to get back into the game, and that interception really took care of business there for Utah. And I have to point it out too, guys, the tackling for USC was, I don't know if I've seen worse open field tackling than what I saw from USC last night. It was embarrassing, really. I mean, they were just broken tackles. Dalton Kincaid, the tight end for Utah, broke a few tackles. A couple of the running backs did. Some of the other receivers did. They got their hands on some of these Utah offensive players, and they couldn't wrap up. They couldn't bring these players down to the turf, down to on the ground. It was just a brutal, pathetic display of tackling. And I think the more I look at Alex Grinch, the defensive coordinator, the more I think he's overrated as a defensive coordinator. I mean, his defenses are supposed to be really good. I never see it on a consistent basis. And we saw it again, USC's defense going to chop liver once again, especially in that second half when Utah started to pour it on. So congrats to Utah. Kyle Whittingham, I've said it year after year. He's one of the best coaches in college football. I am old enough to remember when he was the defensive coordinator at Utah under Urban Meyer, who was actually the head coach at Utah. That's the early 2000s. And that's why Urban Meyer and Kyle on the broadcast last night, they had that extra embrace. They obviously know each other quite well from those days. And it's been 18 years now as the head coach and probably 20 plus at Utah if you include when he was the defensive coordinator there. And it's just done a great job, just a model of consistency year in and year out with that Utah Utes program. Congrats to the Utes. They're back in the Rose Bowl once again as Pac-12 champions. Conor Mac, thoughts on the college football action and USC playoff dreams dashed?
Yeah, well, you basically nailed it. Congrats to UTSA on their win. Best team in that conference the last couple of years with Harris. And USC, the defense reared its ugly head. I know Williams got hurt late there. And that big touchdown, though, at the end of that first half, I thought was huge for Utah right there at the end, and they just cruised the second half. So that was it. You nailed all of it, though, Ian. You ripped it there early.
And someone on Twitter, too, said, I don't know if he had a USC ticket or a betting ticket or if he's a USC fan, or maybe he's just, commenting on the game, but with no fan allegiance. But he said that we should revoke the scholarships of those USC players on defense after that tackling display last night. You might have to, honestly. It was that bad. Big Ragoo, what did you think of last night?
Utah circled the wagons from Oklahoma, right? They were taking that trail to the West Coast, and guess what? You got ambushed. You got ambushed in a bad way. Listen, early on in the season, everybody was talking about Utah. They had to represent the Pac-12. They were the lone hope, but a big revolving door this season in the Pac-12. 1 week it's Oregon, next week it's UCLA, and then it come back to Utah side. But yeah, to hit the nail on the head with Whittingham and what he's done with that program year in, year out, props to him. And Rising, he's a California kid. You don't think he was, eating that one up? And he played a spectacular game. Shout out to the kids in Utah. Money coach, shows up when it's all on the line for him. But I mean, they set their tone of the season when they lost that first game at Florida. So, and then they kind of rebounded, so they came back. But and then the UTSA game, I had UTSA on the. I did lose the total in that USC game. I had the under, so it wasn't profitable for me. But it was still entertaining, fun to watch. And anytime I get to see USC get slapped around a little bit, I'm with Big Boss. I live in Big Boss's house too, so we were happy about that, right, Boss? And then the UTSA game, I was all over that. A lot of love was coming from North Texas, and I'm like, nah, not today. I says Harris takes care of the football, doesn't turn it over. UTSA, another 10-win season, and congrats to Jose. I'm sure he's happy about it too.
Yeah, I'm sure he's up face down on the side of the road after that big win last night in celebration mode following that big win. But no doubt, just a great performance by them, and of course by Utah. Probably Utah Penn State is probably what we're going to end up seeing in the Rose Bowl in January, because obviously there's a good chance we see Ohio State and Michigan both as playoff teams in the college football playoff, which opens the door for Penn State as the third team in the pecking order in the Big Ten to probably be that Rose Bowl opponent for Utah. All right, we get to the man here, our guy Boss, who has no love in his heart for the USC Trojans. He gets to just revel and indulge in last night's defeat for the Trojans right here, right?
Oh man, it was coming any way it went, because yesterday's games gave you a great sample of what you're up to against today. In the UTS game, just two teams where UTSA was just far better throughout the year by any means that you could weigh them on or whatever. They just was the better team. They walked away with a great victory right there. And this USC game kind of comes down to another element, which we're going to be looking at today too, is coaching. I personally feel that it was a little Notre Dame hangover in there, because some of the catches, some of the stuff they were doing against us, it's like they couldn't even put it together yesterday. So some type of hangover in there. But the coaching aspect of the game is huge, and we're going to see that again with Brian Kelly and Kirby Smart going against each other. There's a couple other ones in there, where coaching is a factor right there. And Willingham being there for a long time, being able to play in these big, fourth Pac-12 title in a row, being able to play these games, and being able to weigh his team out. I mean, going down by 17 right away and coming back with such a great victory like that. I mean, great job to the kids for believing in the system and playing their hearts out. But big shout out to the coaches and the staff that kept those guys together and played a real championship type game. So same thing we're going to be faced with a lot of these matchups today. Some of them is straight up, this team is just far better than that team. They showed it throughout. I've seen a couple recency bias in some of the lines today too. And then we have a couple games there where, it will be a coaching matchup where we have to consider that as a part of our capping as well. But great for me anytime USC loses the Pac-12. I don't know. It's too much money. It's too many moving parts. I really can't tell you what's going on over there, where they're going to be. We don't know in a few years. Teams leaving. I don't know what the impact of this whole Pac-12 thing is, but they made a great shot for media by being in the media and being a contender to go into the playoffs finally after a lot of years. But I don't know what the longevity of that is going to be because eventually USC and UCLA is going to leave, and we don't know what kind of Pac-12 we're going to have from there. But shout out to Utah. Played a real stud of a game last night.
Yeah, they did. I don't know where Ian dipped out to. But shout out to the Utes. You know what? Fuck all the talk from last night. What do we say we get to today? Let's get to the first one. Big one here. TCU, Kansas State here. Basically -1 everywhere. Now I'm seeing even pick'ems. Tons of K-State love here. This totals at 60.5 basically everywhere as well. I'll throw it right to you, Ragoo. Hit it.
Yeah, well, let's talk about TCU first. What have they done all year? They've won every fucking game. Every game they've won this year. In miracle fashions, some, in impressive fashions. So every which way this team has gone at it, they've found a way to win the game. They've come out on top in every instance. And, they did play Kansas State early on. That was a 10-point victory for them. They were laying 3.5. So I think, a lot of sharp money's coming in on K-State. That, like you said, that line's kind of opened up from 3.5, 3 down to basically 1 to pick them in some spots, which, keep betting it. I keep betting it. I'm going to be contrarian on this spot here, because it's just been one of those seasons for this team. Now, K-State's nice. I like what Vaughn does. It's going to be an attack of two different styles for both of these teams. We know TCU is going to go at it through the air, and K-State's going to go through the ground. But for me, the X factor is Max Duggan. I mean, he's a Heisman Trophy type candidate. He's been great under pressure. He's performed up to whenever every challenge they've thrown at TCU, they've basically come and answered it. So I mean, even though the sharper money's coming in on the K-State side, with 3 losses, mind you, maybe a little lean to the under possibly also, but I think TCU is going to find a way. I think K-State comes out of the gate quick. I really do. I think the first couple of drives, they'll show some stuff and they'll probably get some points on the board. But I think in the long term, full game, long term, I think TCU is a spot for me here. I just seen too much with this team field all year long. It's been a magical season for them, and I think it's their time. And when if they get to the playoffs, they might be a little bit of a fish out of water, but still, they had a magical season. I think they continue that. Can we see all the undefeated teams go down today? Hey, we can see Georgia get beat by LSU. We can see Michigan take it in, take a L, and it could happen here too. But for my money, I got to roll with TCU here. Until you got to beat the man, you got to beat the man.
There you go. I agree. So sorry about that, guys. It's windy as fuck here. We got a little power flicker here for a couple of seconds. So we got knocked offline for a couple of minutes, but we are back here on the Pub Hub show. Yeah. Good job, guys.
One thing I know, Nuke Worker's saying TCU's lucky to be undefeated, and you do need a little luck in football. We all need it. We got gambling luck. They get football luck, and I think their luck continues today.
But you got to be good to be lucky as well.
You got to be good to be lucky too, right? That's
a good football team. I mean,
sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, but you do have to be good to be lucky.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I'm at the point now where I don't want to freaking, to call these teams frauds or lucky or, they don't belong. And, TCU is talked that way this year in college football. The Minnesota Vikings are talked that way in the NFL. I mean, but they win games. They find ways to win. Why should they be penalized for that? You could say they're frauds. You could say they're lucky all you want, but here they are finding ways to win every single week. I mean, don't you have to give them credit for it at some point? Good football teams find ways to win, and TCU's done that. And definitely, of course, Minnesota Vikings have done that in the NFL. Yet I hear people using the fraud word, for both of them. And you can't go that far. These are good football teams, and sometimes you're good when you find ways to win close games. In terms of Kansas State, TCU, TCU 1-point favorite, 60.5. I like the over a little bit here. I think you'll see points. It's going to be indoors, obviously, here at AT&T Stadium in Arlington, fast surface. And the Kansas State offense with Will Howard at quarterback suddenly becomes more of a passing offense. Not that it wasn't with Martinez, but honestly, Howard is probably a little bit better passing quarterback than Martinez. Martinez is great with his feet and the athleticism, but I think when you look at the arm strength and the passing ability, there's nothing not to like about Will Howard's game. He's been very good for K-State. You put him with Deuce Vaughn, you've got a very balanced attack, and a Kansas State offense that before they lost Martinez to injury and before they lost Will Howard to injury. And I know Conor Mac and I referenced this on Monday's show. They were in control and they were winning up front. That offensive line was pushing TCU's defense around. I mean, it was Kansas State early and often in that game. They were up by as much as 28-10, midway through the second quarter. Vaughn is running like crazy. Will Howard is throwing the ball to all his different receivers. And then, of course, they lost Martinez. Then Howard came in. He was good. And then Howard got injured. And that's really when the game turned, when Kansas State was down to their third quarterback, Rubley, in that game. And TCU took over in the second half. They ended up winning 38-28. And again, in that game, 66 points. And Kansas State didn't even have their best quarterbacks available to them, for much of the second half. So that's why I do think this game goes over the total. I don't have a strong feel for the side. I mean, I think I look at this game as TCU has found ways to win a lot of these games. Why would I want to really go against them here in a pick 'em? I don't really want to. Although, again, Kansas State was taking it to them early. I think it's a tough game to call. I could see it going either way, honestly. And the line's right where it should be, right around a pick 'em range. So I'm just going to stick toward the total in this game, looking over that 60.5. Conor Mac, did you speak on this game already?
I'll go real quick before Boss. This game should be great. The first one was, you guys have already talked about it. Early, I'm going to take Kansas State. I'm not a crazy first half here. I think they jump out again. I think they're a little pissed with that bad taste in their mouth, especially at the end of that football game. Turnovers were big, like you mentioned at the end. One key, Max Duggan's made the plays in the end, and that might happen again today, throwing it. But Miller has been an unreal back for TCU. One of the tops in the country. TCU has been able to run it all year long. He had 153 in that first game. If he does that again, TCU should be in a good spot. But, yeah, I think Kansas State comes out fired up here. I'll take them first half, and then maybe I'll look to see how this game goes. And then maybe look at TCU, especially if they're down. You could get them, with some points. So K-State earlier.
It's funny. The A-team of ESPN, ABC, the A-team broadcast crew, they never have done the Big 12 championship game all these years for the most part. I don't think they've done it. And now all of a sudden, because this is the big playoff implication game, they sent Fowler and Herb Street to this game today. Kansas State and TCU. So they got them calling this game when normally I think they do the ACC championship game at night most years. But it doesn't mean anything to the playoffs. Clemson's not a playoff team. So they gave them this game instead. That was just pretty interesting. It's like, hey, they got them oh, yeah, that's right. The TCU's playoff implications game. It's not Clemson, North Carolina. So that's why they changed it up. All right, Boss, what do you think here? Big 12 championship.
For me, it's TCU or nothing. After last week, I mean, I thought Iowa State defense, not to discredit them or anything, I thought they were pretty good, and TCU blew them up really well. I think it had to come down to the motivation and, where those players are at in their mind state of what they're doing right now. That's why coming into this week, this is the one they really need, so what if they win a playoff game or not, to get there is half the battle, and this is a game that really should be motivated to play and everything. Despite what happened the last time they played, this, that, and the other, this is a Cinderella team right here, and they may have what it takes to take a long distance, but this is also a great coaching matchup as well. We can't downplay Sonny Dykes. We talk about this TCU team all the time, and nobody's mentioned that this guy first year over here, and he's spreading the love from where he came from. He did a great job, and he's over here already doing a great job. So hats off to Sonny Dykes in this one, and I hope that he gets his game plan together, and I think they come away with the victory with TCU. As far as the total, I don't know what to do. It's a Big 12 game. They kind of lean over it sometimes, but sometimes they can play some defense. But one thing you will get out of both teams is four quarters of pedal to the metal football. So I think I kind of lean over, but who knows weather and all that kind of stuff. Who knows how they're going to approach this game today is so important. But give me TCU on the money line or nothing.
Yeah, definitely. K-State has an Iowa State defense, says Craig Wood. For most of the season they have, the kind of the thing that tilted me toward the over, though, here was Kansas State's defense the last couple of weeks hasn't been so good. 27 against Kansas and 31 against West Virginia, not nearly as good. And TCU is better than both of those teams offensively. And they should have everybody. There was some doubt about Quentin Johnston's status, but one of the wide receivers, but he's healthy. So everybody's available. Darius Davis, Quentin Johnston, of course, the great Kendre Miller running the ball. I mean, TCU's got all their weapons. So does K-State. The only injury for K-State's obviously Martinez, but Will Howard has clearly shown that he can quarterback this team at a pretty solid, very strong level throughout the course of the season. So excellent game. And of course, if you're Alabama and you're some of these other teams that are, right on the fringe of the playoff race, you're also hoping for a TCU loss here. That's the debate. I don't think it's for sure that if TCU loses, they're not a playoff team. The committee still might put a one-loss, non-Big 12 champion TCU rather, in the playoff. But I also could see it going the other way, where because everybody's just so fucking in love with Alabama that if TCU loses today, they might put Alabama over TCU. I'm not saying that's right to do that. I'm just thinking, I know how this committee works. They could find a way to somehow get Bama in there if TCU loses. But the bottom line is, if you're Alabama, you need a lot of chaos today, including, obviously, TCU losing this game to Kansas State to have a chance to slide your way through the back door into the playoffs. So we'll see if they get the help they need from Kansas State here in the Big 12 championship game. All right, this next game, man, this game is very fascinating because there's a lot of moving parts to it. It's the MAC championship game, Ford Field in Detroit, Toledo Rockets, Ohio Bobcats. This line opened Toledo 4.5-point favorites. Has gone down to Toledo 3.5-point favorites in this game. 54.5 the total from an opener of 61.5. We've seen a 7-point move to the under in this game, and it's all because of the quarterback situation for both teams. Let's start with Toledo. It's either going to be DeQuan Finn or it's going to be Tucker Gleason, one of those two guys at the quarterback spot. I think it's going to be Finn because we've seen a little move in the morning toward Toledo, and that kind of indicates to me DeQuan Finn is going to give it a go. And the last indication was it looks like he is going to give it a try. And he is the better of the two quarterbacks for Jason Candle and the Toledo Rockets, but I don't know if he's going to be 100%. That was a significant ankle injury he had. He was hobbling through it the last few times we saw him play. Even if he is the starter for Toledo, how effective and how healthy is he going to be for this game today? I'm not so sure he will. And if it's not DeQuan Finn and you end up having to go to Gleason instead, I mean, we watch a lot of MAC football. I know we've commented on it, Connor and I, on the Monday show. Gleason's been horrible. Do you know that he's 13 for 38 throwing the football? 13 for 38. That's absolutely brutal. I mean, they have had very little, if any, passing attack with him, the quarterback. He's the even worse option, actually. I think even a less than 100% Finn gives you a better chance, honestly, than Gleason. Gleason's been horrible for Toledo. There's no other way around it. So I think you want to see Finn in there if you're Toledo. But even if he is in there, how healthy is he? So that's something you really are going to want to, if you watch this game, see how he looks, see if he's mobile, see if he's moving around in the pocket well. I think that's very important. Either way, I'm looking at Ohio or nothing in this game, plus the 3.5. We've talked about how lousy Toledo's been as favorites here down the stretch. Just terrible. I mean, it's just automatic. You fade Toledo as favorites, you cash a ticket. That's the way it's been here down the stretch. Now, on the Ohio side, obviously, they're a great quarterback out for the season. What a shame. Curtis Rourke, the way he was playing, dynamic, running the ball, throwing the ball. I actually think his arm is just as good, if not better, than his older brother, Nathan, who played here at Ohio. He's been very impressive, but we're not going to see him. It's going to be C.J. Harris. Now, C.J. Harris has been in the program for 3 years. C.J. Harris knows the offense. He knows the playbook. He came into the game against Bowling Green and did pretty well for himself in that final regular season game, but he's not the passing quarterback Rourke was. He's still a little bit iffy with the passing game, but he's got great wheels, a terrific athleticism. Certainly one of those quarterbacks that's an RPO-type quarterback, can run it with it, and did a pretty admirable job in tough circumstances last week in that game against Bowling Green. Can he be effective here? Big pressure game in the MAC championship. I'd still lean Ohio. I mean, obviously, a lot of moving parts at the quarterback position, both teams, but I still, been fading Toledo every week as favorites. Why would I stop now? I do like Ohio here, plus the 3.5 is out there still at some books. There are 3.5s. And the under move probably makes sense. I mean, but now it's down to 54.5, and it's a 7-point move. And if you haven't bet the under yet, I don't know if you'd want to get involved in it now, but I totally understand and I get it why the move has come on the under here. I think the offenses are probably going to have their share of struggles today because we got big-time question marks at the quarterback position for both teams. Conor Mac, what do you think here? MAC title game, Toledo, Ohio.
Yeah, I agree, with this move to the under, but have we gone too low here? I don't think I'm going to mess with this total because of those question marks. Here's the thing. Ohio gives up yards. They have all year, but I backed them. Rourke's been phenomenal. The big key is, though, they've made stops, kind of bend but don't break. And this team, 13 turnovers plus 13 on the turnover margin. That's will be the key here, especially if Finn is in, who hasn't looked great when he's been in. I mean, he's not looked very good at all. Ohio will win here. And this team is dying for a MAC championship. They've lost so many of these, 4 or 5 of them. Solich never won one there. So I think it's finally done today. I'm not going to I've been with you, same. And I'm not going to lay points for this Toledo team. So I guess I die on the sword, with Ohio plus 3.5.
I mean, it was so bad for Daquan Finn against Western. He actually started that game against Western Michigan, the final regular season game last week. He went 5 for 11, 35 yards. He had 2 interceptions, and they took him out. They said, you don't look right. You look hurt. You're not playing well. Out you go, and then that's when they put Gleason in that game. So that's the thing. I mean, if Finn does play, and it looks like he will, we got to see how healthy he is. We got to see if he looks right, if he feels right. Because he certainly didn't in that Western Michigan game. And really all season, even before this ankle injury started, his play was erratic for Toledo. It's not like this is an experienced guy. He's been here for years, and it hasn't been the season he hoped for here at the quarterback position for Toledo.
Real quick, Toledo, too, it's been a long time since they've won by more than a field goal, too. Since they've won a game. I think it was Eastern Michigan, 27-24. So, yep.
Yeah, I like I say, I definitely would have liked Ohio more with Rourke in there, but if it ain't broke, don't fix it for me. We've cashed week after week after week after week betting against Toledo as favorites. Now, they're not as big favorites here in this game as some of those other games, but yeah, I'm still on Ohio here. Hopefully C.J. Harris makes plays with his feet. He's a good dual threat quarterback, and hopefully he's a good enough passing quarterback that when they do ask him to throw, he's able to make some plays. And let's be honest, the Toledo secondary hasn't been good, so maybe Harris can make some plays in the passing game. And the one thing Ohio does have, they've got Cross, Jones, Wigloose, a couple of 3 really good receivers on this team, and of course, nice running back too in Bangura. So Ohio's definitely got the weapons offensively to challenge Toledo on defense. Big Ragoo, what do you think of your MAC title?
Yeah, my numbers are thrown to the wind now, with the quarterback situation, obviously. So, and I'm thinking like Connor too, maybe this number did get a little bit low, but I don't want no part of it. Even if I adjust the numbers for a touchdown, I'm still pretty much on the over. But, what are we going to get from the quarterback play on both sides here? But the contributing factor for me is on the Ohio side is the turnover margin, like Connor said. I like that with them, and you're right. Zolich was 0-4 in championship games, so they're looking to get their MAC championship finally here. I think today's the day they can do it. With Toledo struggles, even when they had the better quarterback in, he's still not putting covering point spread. So I think that being the equalizer, between the two quarterbacks, who's going to make the mistakes. I'd put it back on Ohio. I think they're the better football team, the better rounded team right now. They did have the number one offense in the MAC going into the game, so, and I think defensively, they're going to give up some yards. That's a given, but I think, a couple turnovers. I think when Toledo turns the ball over, I think they've won one game when they have multiple turnovers. So I think the difference maker here is going to be the Ohio defense, long term, with the turnovers. So I think that bodes well. So I would lean hard on Ohio on the money line. Forget about the points. Take the money line. Take Ohio to win the game.
Isn't it crazy, too, that all those years, Frank Solich, and they were a pretty consistent program all those years, and yet never won a MAC championship, the Ohio Bobcats. So
maybe Alvin's get it done finally.
Yeah, I you know what? I think that's going to – and the kids know about it. I'm sure they've heard about it from the media all week going in. So I think they're – not that Toledo isn't excited. Both teams want to win a MAC championship game. It's not like that gives Ohio a motivational edge. But, no, if you're Ohio, you've got a chance to make history with this program today. I mean, that should really be something that, hey, we could, be in the history books, the first ever team to win a MAC championship game for this program. So, great opportunity.
You talked about Whittingham's lengthy stay with Utah. Albin's been there for a day or two also, behind Zolich. He's been there with that program a long time. So he's just basically kind of took over what Frank left behind, and when Frank got sick and had to go. So, but it'll be a good win for them. Quality win, chalk one up for the Gipper here.
Yeah, absolutely. It's actually a fascinating game. So there's only two games at noon. It's the Big 12 title game and this one. So there's which is good. It means I can have the two screens on those games and really focus on them. Usually 12 noon on a Saturday, I've got 8 or 10 screens trying to go at once and trying to keep track of everything. So nice to have just two games to really focus on at the early noon Eastern time window. DJ Big Boss, what do you think here about the MAC title game?
I think it's one of those spots. No need to overthink this. Ohio this year has been the far better team throughout the whole year. The ups, the downs, the good parts, and all that. And also my MAC overs, they've been hitting too. So I like MAC over right here. They're gonna play 4 quarters. Let's hope that it comes down to some tit for tat type situations. So I lean on the over more than Ohio, but I believe Ohio's a side. Like Big Ragoo said, on the money line, easy money.
All right. Next up, we have the Sun Belt Championship game. Troy, Alabama, home of the Trojans. Of course, they get to host it as the team with the better record. Coastal Carolina, Chanticleers, Troy Trojans. Troy down to 7-point home favorites now, 50 the total, and the total's gone up. So the total's gone up, and the money's come in on Coastal. What does that tell you? It tells you that I think we might see a Grayson McCall sighting for the Coastal Carolina team today. Game time decision, but I know that guy well, not that guy well personally, but I know from watching him, the ultimate competitor is Grayson McCall, and I think he's going to play in this game through this foot injury. And remember, this is not an ankle, this is a foot. So it's not nearly as, detrimental to weighing you down in terms of your performance. So if he's good enough to play, I think he'll be relatively pain-free, and he'll be relatively able to do what he's normally able to do at quarterback. And I said this on Monday's show, it's hard to bet this game without knowing if McCall's going to be in or not. But I did say that if McCall's in, and bet that Coastal, and if you think he's going to play, bet Coastal as soon as you can, especially when it was above a touchdown, because I do think there's things to like about them. There's people saying they're going to get destroyed in this game because of that ugly performance against James Madison last week. I think it's important to remember, for James Madison beating, a team that's been the poster child of success in this conference the last couple of years, was significant for that program. And for Coastal, I don't know if that game meant much to them, because they already knew they were going to be in this Sun Belt Championship game this week. And they had their backup quarterback. You have to factor that in. He wasn't very good. And so I think there might not have put a lot of onus into that game last week. Obviously, this is totally different, and they should have McCall back. And you also want to factor in, too, the fact that when you look at this Troy team, we know they've got a great defense. The best defensive team in the Sun Belt. That's why they're here. No question about that. But they've got a plodding offense, and they're being asked to win by margin, and it hasn't always been easy, for Troy to win games decisively. If you actually look at all of Troy's victories here, the ULM and Arkansas State, the last 2 weeks, they won those games in blowout fashion, but you throw those two out, and those are two horrible teams, especially on the defensive end of the field. They beat Army by 1, ULL by 6, South Alabama by 4, Texas State by 3, Western Kentucky by 7, Marshall by 9. There's been a lot of single-digit margins here for Troy. So that's the thing you have to keep in mind. And Jamie Chadwell seems to be in a position where when McCall's in there, he's got a good plan on offense. They definitely running the football, find ways to have success. Not going to be easy against Troy's defense, but obviously the passing game, when you play Troy, has the potential to have some success now with McCall back, assuming he's going to play, and I really do think he will. Obviously, Coastal's defense is shaky. There's no question about that. They haven't been great on that side of the ball. They've really been gouged by the secondary in the pass defense. That's really where the numbers drop off here for Coastal Carolina's defense. The question is, will they be able to throw the ball well enough to take advantage of that secondary? Gunnar Watson, let's be honest, all of that offense last week was running the football with their great running back, Kamani Vidal, and the 208 rushing yards. They only got 9 of 15 throwing the football from Gunnar Watson, the quarterback of Troy, in that blowout win last week. And when you look at Coastal's defense, while they've struggled against the pass, they're respectable against the run. 134 rushing yards per game allowed, 39th in the country. That's not bad. So, if that run game is somewhat neutralized by Coastal, is the passing game going to be able to make the plays necessary for the Trojans to not only win this game, win by margin? So I always said with McCall plays, I kind of lean Coastal plus the points. It's down to 7 now. If you haven't bet it yet, I think it's very important to have to get this above 7. At 7, I'd still lean Coastal, but not with as much gusto as I did before. I just think, and keep in mind too, there's a first-year head coach too with Troy. Brand new situation for him here. John Summerall here for Troy, a guy that's going to be in the Sun Belt title game for the first time. Coastal Carolina has been here before. Experience advantage probably in their side a little bit. So I wouldn't sell Coastal short. Everybody throwing them in the garbage dump because they got absolutely annihilated by James Madison, but they might have been playing possum with everybody. Again, that game meant very little, if anything, to Coastal. This one does, and maybe you see Coastal look more like the Santa Clara we've seen the last couple of years. I think there's a chance this is a competitive football game. What do you think here, Conor Mac? Sun Belt Championship, Coastal Carolina, Troy.
Yeah, maybe. You went through Troy, maybe not winning crazier by margin. That's just how they do it with their defense. The thing with Coastal is McCall means so much. There's probably not a quarterback that means more to a team than this guy.
After what I saw last week from the other two quarterbacks, that's for damn sure.
Yeah, man, all those guys were horrible. Gass was horrible. It's just if he's in, all I hear is McCall's gonna go. At least that's the whole give it a shot. And I don't know if he's 100%. I think Troy's defense will smother them here, and I think they can do what they want offensively. I don't know if they'll blow it out crazy. I finally see a 6.5. Here at Circa, so I think you can get maybe under a touchdown if you like Coastal. I don't. I'm not going to mess with the side here. I lean under. I have not bet it at 50, but that's where I'd look this way. Because even if McCall's in, I think it could be a tight game. And if he's out, they won't do anything. I don't think Coastal. So under here.
Right, leaning toward the under here for Conor Mac with the Sun Belt championship game between Coastal Carolina and Troy. When you look at it as well too for this Coastal Carolina team, definitely experience in this Sun Belt championship game. Troy, like I say, the best team I would say, and certainly the best defense in this conference all season long. We'll see if it shows up again and leads them to a Sun Belt title. Big Ragoo, what do you think?
I'm hoping the 6-year senior gets to play today. I really wanted him to finish out the season at home, back in Carolina with that game. But, If he goes, I'm going to be on Coastal on this spot here. And I'll tell you what, I'll also be on the over if he goes too, because I think if you go back and look at the history with these games, everyone's been an over. I think in the 6 times they played, and by high singles to double digits in most cases. But Troy's defense, that's the big that's the big juggernaut here. But maybe against a weaker offense, Coastal's been up and down. They've had some games where they look decent. They've had some games they look terrible. But Troy's been the more consistent team all season long. But we're in unfamiliar territory for this team now. We're laying not better than a touchdown. If you got in early, you got the better number. But touchdown or better. If you can still catch a 7, and he goes, I would still be very interested in backing that spot here. But even more so on the over. So I think if it's a go with Grayson, I think he's a gutsy player, man. We've seen him play many a game. Many we're used to playing Louisiana, App State, those type games in this championship. So it's kind of a lower level year for the Sun Belt. Not to take anything away from Troy because they've had a fantastic season, And Coastal, 9-2, but they haven't covered a lot. 4-7 to the number, 6-5 to the overs, and Troy favors unders also. But I think it'll be tight. I still think we're at 7. We get good value with Coastal here, even though they had that rough game with the 3 quarterbacks that were in last week or against Madison. It's a different look though. It's a championship game. They've been there before. The coaches will be ready to roll with these guys, and I think we'll see some vulnerability. Yes, but like I say, sign me up. Sign me up if Grayson goes today. I'll be all over it.
Yeah, I think that's the tricky part of the handicap. I mean, you look at last week, and it feels so easy to bet Troy here. I mean, with just how pathetic it looked for Coastal last week. And it was pathetic. The offense was miserable. The defense got shredded. But part of me also has to think, don't forget about the spot. The Coastal's already in the Sun Belt Championship game this week. Yeah. It wasn't really a game of significance for Coastal last week. Maybe they were just laying low, looking ahead to this game here, get McCall back, and now you see Coastal look like Coastal again. And if they look like Coastal at their best and McCall's looking fine, he can move, and he's doing everything he needs to be able to do to function at the quarterback position through that foot injury today, then I think they've got a real chance to compete in this game. So that's the big question. And maybe that's why, you make maybe a pregame stance betting-wise, but you also maybe look to add more live in-game with this Sun Belt title game to see what you get from McCall, particularly early in the game. DJ Big Boss, what do you think here?
I think you can only bet this game live right here. This is one of the worst games on the card for me because besides the X factor with McCall, I mean, it's kind of hard to cap overall. You really don't know what you're going to get. And then even with McCall coming in, McCall's looking, fortunately, into the NFL right now. More than likely, even if he plays right here, he probably won't play in the bowl game because he's going to be getting ready to go to the combine. But so I don't know, is the team behind him like this? I mean, I would love to see McCall play one last outstanding game at home for the Sun Belt Championship. That would be, the topping on the cake and all that good stuff. But I don't know if we get that for sure. Recency bias still has a nasty taste in everybody's mouth. I mean, after getting beat down like that, do you just put it together and run on the field and walk away with a victory with a quarterback that you didn't know if was going to play or not going to play or whatever? So no way to bet this game but live, total and side, because you don't know what you're going to get right here.
I think there's definitely some truth to that, if you're a little unsure of things right now, look live betting wise here with this Sun Belt Championship game. All right, we go to the AAC title game next, UCF and Tulane, a rematch of the regular season meeting earlier this year. Tulane up to 4-point favorites here, 57 the total in this one. I did bet early in the week too. I knew I was going to be on Tulane, and obviously I saw early in the week the money's come in on Tulane, and I said I better jump in on this when it was 3, and sure, I did because I knew it was going up, and then it got to 3.5, and I thought it's probably going to go up much further, and then it's gone up to 4. So this has been definitely a lot of love for Tulane. I like the revenge angle. I like that the team that lost the first meeting, they're a little extra aggressive in terms of adjustments, changing things, seeing what didn't work, and trying to fix it for the second meeting. I think you're going to see that here with Tulane. Fix what didn't work. They had real trouble containing Plumlee. They had real trouble containing the UCF ground game in the first meeting. That's really what was their demise in that 38-31 loss on this field, Yulman Stadium here, Tulane's home campus. And now it's the same two teams in the same venue here for the AAC championship game. I'm riding or dying with Tulane. My team all year. Tulane over their win total. I had a small piece of them in the AAC. I didn't expect them to win the AAC, but I've got them live here to potentially win the AAC as well. And I think they got a chance to get it done. And Plumlee is a little less than 100% as well, kind of like we talked about. There's a couple quarterbacks that are banged up right now. Plumlee's one of them. So keep an eye. Will he have that same mobility that he normally has? That's going to end up being the question. He's got a hamstring problem, and how that can really debilitate a running quarterback. So it's something to watch for. Kind of like what Boss said about the last game. Maybe live betting, see how Plumlee looks early in the game. Now, the good news for UCF is they got an experienced backup waiting in the wings. Mikey Keene has been around the block for them. If he has to come in for Plumlee, if he's not feeling it 100%, then definitely. Keene is capable, but Keene doesn't have the run threat that Plumlee does, and that is the greater weakness of Tulane's defense. Tulane is actually a terrific pass defense. Secondary is very good for the Green Wave. I think that's where their defense is at their absolute best. So if Keene comes into the game, I think it's probably advantage Tulane, because more of the damage that you do against them is often on the ground, where Plumlee thrives more at the quarterback spot for UCF. So I still like Tulane regardless. A coach like Willie Fritz here to make those adjustments. What went wrong against UCF? The offense still played pretty well. It was just that they couldn't really contain those big explosive plays on the ground from UCF in the first meeting. I'm going to roll with Tulane. I still will endorse the -4. You're not getting as good of a number right now, but I'm still going to rock with Tulane laying the points here in this game. And I loved what I saw from Tulane against Cincinnati. That told me they are ready to win a big game, because the one thing about Tulane is the big game has been an issue for them. Like the UCF game by far was their biggest game. They came up short. People were saying going into Cincinnati, here's another big game. Can Tulane get it done? Well, they went into Cincinnati, a team that had a 36-game home win streak, something along those lines going into last week, the Bearcats, and they beat Cincinnati in very impressive fashion. Michael Pratt led that offense. Spears was good running the ball. Pratt made big plays in the passing game, including the big touchdown to put them ahead in the fourth quarter, throwing it. Excellent performance. And then they got the stops they needed against that Ben Bryant-led Cincinnati offense. So huge win for Tulane. That got the big game monkey off their back, if you will. And I think that bodes well for them here today against Central Florida. I lean to the over as well, but I like the side more with Tulane here. Big Ragoo, UCF Tulane, AAC champions.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of your analogies on the comeback with the team coming back for the second time. Especially in this one. This is going to be a coaching matchup outside quarterback issue with UCF. Like you said, with the thing with Plumlee, he presents the X factor. With being able to take off with his legs and do all that stuff. But they're going to have to rely more on Bowser and Harvey here. To help out Keene. Now Keene, he's played in 4 games this year. I think he's won 3 out of the 4. I think he took an L with Navy, but he beat and he's 2-0 as a dog, which he beat Cincinnati and Memphis, and he came in to help out in the USF game. Came far from covering that game. That's the game that Plumlee come up a little bit lame in that game, but Tulane's quality, man. They've been playing lights out. Fritz, well deserved, to get in this spot here, and even if Plumlee goes, how effective is he really going to be? And that might even hurt the team, believe it or not, because if he's working off a bad wheel, even though they're better on the pass, that kind of helps their run defense out a little bit. So if I'm Malzahn, you're going to have to scheme, which he's great at. He's one of the top in the league when it comes to schemes, putting offensive schemes on the field. So I think in this spot, I would have to lean with Tulane just because they've been more consistent. They've got the better rounded right now, I feel, on the offensive side, and defensively, I think they're a little bit better. Now UCF is known to stop the run. They can't play defense up front. So, with Spears, they're going to have to contain him and then kind of force the issue to make him beat him on the pass. So I think you'll see some points either way. I think the total is 56, 57 points. But I still lean Tulane in this spot. Even though I'm a UCF guy, I would lean Tulane just because there's too many question marks with Plumlee, and I don't want to see him come in the game and have to, possibly hurt their chances. But I think he'll be available maybe for plays that, maybe they get in situations where they use him as a decoy and, set something up downfield possibly. Who knows? But like you said, I think a more balanced attack with Mikey Keene coming in and they'll make their adjustments on defense. Tulane will, so that bodes well for them. So I lean Tulane here.
Yeah, definitely lean Tulane here for Big Ragoo as well. All right, boss.
Well, listen, the coaching matchup leads me to lean hard on the over because both of them are offensive gurus that will come up and figure out a way to score, especially in these type of games right here. I don't really, even though, low key, they kind of been trending under all season, but I think we got a low number today. I think it gets over that with both of these coaches right here that have offensive schemes that can get in the end zone. So I expect some scoring today. Both teams are very similar at what they do, running, being balanced. Even on defense, the numbers are close. So another one of my ideologies is two teams that are very similar could definitely cause an over in this spot.
All right, liking the over here, DJ Big Boss with the UCF and Tulane matchup. All right, we go to the Mountain West Championship game. This is the best game of the day for our guy Boss. I just know it. This is the one he's waiting for the most. Fresno, the Mountain West, where they do it the best, as he often says. Fresno State and Boise State. Boise State 3-point favorites here, 54.5 the total. This game's at Albertson Stadium in Boise. Of course, the Mountain West Championship game usually gets to be hosted by the team with the better record. That's Boise here. And yet all the money, because this opened 5.5, has come in on Fresno. And I think there's reason for that, good reason for that. I mean, they've definitely been a different team with Haener at the quarterback spot. You look at Fresno's results since he's been back. That explosive offense, 32, 55, 37, 41, and 30 in their last 5 games since he returned from that injury. And even the Fresno defense has played a lot better as well. Now, you could argue some of the offenses they faced not great, certainly not on the caliber of Boise, but at the same time, they've definitely been good, better on the defensive end. And they've certainly got Haener back, which matters big time for this offense. And obviously, it opens up everything because you got Haener back. You've got your great receivers, Cropper, Remigio, and Pope, who are all outstanding, all dynamic after the catch as well. Jordan Mims, an outstanding running back for Fresno. All of a sudden, it opens up everything here for this Fresno team. Boise State on the other side, you're going to look and you're going to see, and I've mentioned this on Monday's show, Boise State, the third-ranked pass defense in the country, third-ranked, giving up 158.8 passing yards per game. And people are going to look at that and just automatically think, wow, great secondary. How's this Fresno offense? How's Jake Haener going to function? And how well is he going to play against that secondary with it being so good? Is it really that good? I mean, you look at the opponents for Boise. They played – Utah State's got a little bit of a passing game. We'll give them that. But before that, they played Wyoming. They don't have much of a passing game. Nevada has no passing game. BYU is the best passing game they've played in weeks. They gave up 31 points in that game to the Cougars. Colorado State can't throw the football a lick. Air Force doesn't throw the football a lick. They faced Fresno early in the year without Jake Haener, so their passing game was a lot more limited. They played Southern Miss. Who was it? San Diego State, I should say. We know they don't throw the football much, and that was back when they couldn't throw the football. They were still screwing around with Burmeister, who's absolutely terrible at the quarterback spot back then. So that's why I put it out there to everybody. Sure, you're going to have the third best stats defensively against the pass when you're playing that group of teams. None of them can throw the football. There's either teams that don't throw the football because they play option like Air Force, teams that have bad quarterback play or bad passing teams like San Diego State, Nevada, Wyoming, go on down the list. I think this is a wake-up call for Boise's secondary. Maybe they prove me wrong and that secondary is legit and they shut down and they neutralize it here today and the passing attack. I'm not so sure about that. I go back to that BYU game, and that BYU game was by far the best quarterback and passing attack, Jaron Hall, that they faced, and they got ripped in that game. They could not stop BYU's passing game. And now Fresno's passing game, every bit as good, if not better. So I like Fresno in this game. I agree with the move down in the number to 3. Lean over the total as well. Although the one thing that concerns me about the total is could see some efficiency offensively because, again, Boise's offense has been better too with Talon Green at quarterback. Although I will say this, they're about to lose that game against Utah State last week. And then all of a sudden, one of the worst beats ever if you had Utah State because they were going in to win that game or take the lead. They got stopped on 4th down. They're still only trailing by 5. Big 90-yard run for Boise State to go up by 12 and then pick 6, and it turns it into a 19-point win. Just brutal if you had Utah State in that game, but a misleading final score. Before that, they barely beat Wyoming. They had the loss to BYU. I mean, against the better teams in the conference, they're struggling to win by margin. And again, against Utah State last week, that's one of the most misleading final scores you'll ever see. That was a 5-point game with like 2-3 minutes left, and then it all went haywire. So I definitely like Fresno here, plus the points in this one. Even at 3, I would still look toward that side. What do you think here, Conor Mac?
Yeah, we talked about this on Monday. I like Fresno here. Boise's owned them, though. I think they want a little payback. Hayner's healthy. They've been playing great football, even though not against great teams the last 4 or 5 weeks of the year. You mentioned Boise, that pass defense. I mean, Legas threw for over 300 yards last week. So I think Hayner can do what he wants here. I really like the over, but that was at 51. Remember we talked about it on Monday. Try to get it before it hits 52. Now we're all the way up. Money's all over the over. It's up to 54.5. So I still think it can get creep over. But, yeah, I think Fresno finally can get it done. If not, this game is close, so take the points.
All right, taking the points for Conor Mac. Big Ragoo.
Yeah, I agree on the Fresno side for a couple of reasons. All the momentum, right? And after the slow start, reeling off like 7 in a row. Hayner's back. Now, here's the key for this game for me. And you talk about being able to throw the ball on Boise. They do have injuries on the defensive side. They have injuries in the secondary. If you go back and look at the past few games, especially. And one way I would like to attack this game is not so much if you think it's going to be close or you like the Boise side or the Fresno side, you want to try to take them on the money line, you go ahead and do that too. But for me, the better play would be the team total over 25 for Boise State here. I mean, for Fresno State, excuse me. I just think Hayner is going to have his way. I think they have secondary issues on the Boise side, and that kind of bodes well for the over also. But I think if Fresno's defense decides to step up and play like they've been playing, even though, like you say, the problem with the Mountain West is it falls off pretty steep, off a couple teams off the top, and then that's why all those defensive numbers look so good in the Mountain West. But I still think, that being said, Fresno is going to be better equipped for this game offensively to put points up. So I would lean Fresno on the money line. I'm definitely going to take over the team total 25 points. I think they put points up today. I think they get 30 to 35 points today.
All right, liking the Fresno team total in this one. And I might sprinkle on that too, just as a way to, because I could see also a scenario where Fresno loses and still gets over that team total. You could see something like that as well. But I definitely think over that team total worth a look. And yeah, there's Dabby Cab is right, and no question about that in the chat. It sure looks like McCall's playing because this money just keeps rolling in on Coastal Carolina. And yeah, we're starting to see even 6.5 starting to pop up. So starting to look like Grayson McCall is going to give it a go, as kind of we expected here in the Sun Belt championship game today. DJ Big Boss, you're the Mountain West man. What do you think here, Fresno and Boise?
Well, the over jumped off the page to me when I first took a look at this earlier in the week. But as I'm looking at it now, the scene is set for a Boise-type game. They're at home. They're going to be playing late over there, and it's going to be a little rain. So they got some weather factors. I mean, it just smells Boise's conditions. So I still like the over, even though it may be tough to get to some of those points, it probably gets over late. But I think Haener, you gotta sack him. You gotta sack Haener to slow him down. I don't think Boise can get to him fast enough because of the way that they run the offense. And then Mims, he still can get loose and run the ball as well. And then on the Boise side, if I go quarterback for quarterback, I mean, which one you want, Green or you want Haener? I'm gonna take Haener every time. I mean, Green has showed some miraculous, will to score and get things done, but I don't know if that wins championships compared to Haener, who's a well thought out guy, great skill set that's going to be coming for you right away. So I like the over in this one still. I'm not too sure on the side at this point, even though I do like Fresno State to win, but I don't know. It's just too much smelling Boise, on the blue turf, late, cold. I mean, so much in the favor of them compared to this Fresno State team that's, a little more West Coast. In the summertime it's burning up, and in the wintertime it is cold over there as well too. But give me the over in this one, and I lean on Fresno State for the win.
All right, so the over and a lean on Fresno State here for DJ Big Boss with the Mountain West championship game. All right, we move from the Mountain West championship game to the SEC championship game. Mercedes-Benz Stadium, Atlanta, Georgia. LSU taking on Georgia. Georgia now up to 17.5 point favorites here in this one. Total in the 52 range across the board. We've got certainly this Georgia team just a freight train pretty much all season long for the most part. And I'll tell you what, I was on Tennessee plus, 9.5, 10 against Georgia. And they obviously had a terrific first half, and it paced themselves toward a absolutely terrific performance that day. And then they basically coasted when they had the big lead in the second half. Definitely not stepping in front of Georgia anymore in these spotlight games. I mean, we've seen really them play two massive games this year, like two games where they're up for it. They're playing great competition, elite competition. I consider the Oregon game one of those games, and I consider Tennessee one of those games. And the final score on the scoreboard in those two games combined was 76-16, in favor of Georgia. So I find Georgia, the bigger the game, the better they play, and the more you get the best out of them. So I'm not stepping in front of Georgia here, and not with this LSU team that just gave up. Like, you could say what you want about LSU maybe not being focused last week. Game didn't mean a lot. They were already in the SEC championship game. But they did have outside aspirations at the playoff. I don't know if they were going to make the playoff, but they at least had a small little sliver of hope to make the playoff before that A&M game. So you would have thought you would come to play against a really bad A&M team that's had a miserable, embarrassing season to forget. And they get absolutely just blown apart, 38-23. The defense was just completely and utterly pathetic for LSU because this team hasn't done anything offensively all year. You give up over 200 rushing yards to them. It was one of the better games from the quarterback position for A&M. Weekman was pretty solid as well. I mean, the LSU defense giving up 38 points to an A&M offense that has been in the gutter most of the season. And now I'm trusting them to play Georgia here today? No. Can't do it. Even getting 17.5, can't do it. It's just, to me, and people saying, well, Georgia's already in the playoff. They're going to go through the motions here. It's the SEC championship game. I don't think Georgia's wired that way. I think Georgia comes out here, plays the best they can, and if they play that way, they've probably got a decent chance to cover. I'm not laying the 17.5 either, but I've learned my lesson going against Georgia. I'm not doing that. This might be a sneaky over. You're indoors. There's no weather. 52. Because keep in mind, we just saw LSU give up 38 to A&M. If you're giving up 38 to A&M, what on earth could Stetson Bennett, what on earth could Ladd McConkey, Brock Bowers, McIntosh, the other running back too is very good. What could they do here against this LSU defense if they're surrendering almost 40 to A&M last week? And the thing is, we think about Georgia elite defense, but this is a team that can put points on the board too. 48, 39, 42, 55, 42, 45 against Mississippi State, 37 last week against Georgia Tech, 42 against Florida. They had most of their games, they put up big points. Tennessee, 27 points when they actually took their foot off the gas. Could have been a lot more than 27 points if they didn't coast in the second half against Tennessee. So I think this game over 52, or even focus more on a Georgia team total over. Those would be the ways I'm more looking toward betting this SEC championship game. Conor Mac, LSU, Georgia, what do you like?
Yeah, that's not a good sign. I mean, if you gave up that many last week to A&M with that offense that struggled all year, I think if you like LSU, the only thing is you hope you come out hot and take them early. First quarter, we've seen Georgia, they should be up for this game, SEC championship, but maybe a little sleep at the wheel. That's the only way I could look LSU. First quarter, first half, they could be in this. Georgia wears them down in the end. And I couldn't take LSU. Georgia too big in big games. I don't love the 17 in the hook either, but I think Georgia takes care of business.
All right, Big Ragoo.
Last week I had Georgia Tech team total over 6.5, and they went up 7-0 at about 4 minutes into the game. Fans should take it. All right, so is that going to happen this week? Not necessarily, because I'm not looking at a team total for LSU this week. But I am looking for the total, like you said. I think Georgia could – listen, last year they won the national championship first time in 40 years. They didn't win the SEC championship last year. They want the SEC championship. Trust me. They want to hang that belt up also. So they're going to come out. They're going to play. And let's not forget, they're 12-0. There's Michigan sitting at undefeated. If they slip up here, who knows what happens with the seeding, right? So it's a lot better 1 versus 4 than 2 playing 3. So let's keep that in mind too. So I don't think Georgia's going to sleep on this game at all. I think they're going to come to play. And even though you might think this game has backdoor written all over it, I don't think so. I just maybe a little lack of focus, maybe like you said from LSU last week, but I could only see this game going over the total no matter what happens, because LSU, they're going to play a little loose here because in reality, they'll probably take some chances where they wouldn't, if it meant a whole lot to them. So I think you'll see some opportunities for LSU to kind of go for stuff on 4th down, which may bode well for the total. It might help them out too the other way if they're in bad field position and they do something stupid and Georgia gets the ball. But I think Georgia will probably rest some starters late in the 4th quarter once the game gets if it stays close, and obviously they're not. But if they get within margin, then you can see the mop-ups and stuff like that, and then there'll be some more points scored there. But I like the over here. I think it's low-hanging fruit.
I think it gets over the total too, because the one thing too in these conference, why did both games go over the total yesterday in the conference championship games? It's because whether you're ahead or whether you're trailing in a conference title game, you don't try to stop scoring until the end. Right through the end of the game, you're trying to score, whether you're ahead or whether you're trailing in a game of this magnitude. So that's the thing you have to factor in. Even if Georgia's up by a big margin, I think, if they put some backup defenders in, LSU can make some plays. And Jaden Daniels looks like he's good to go. There was some question. He was banged up a little bit last week against A&M, but looks like Jaden Daniels good to go for LSU at the quarterback spot. And to be honest with you, their offense has been better in recent weeks. There's no question. They had the 45 against Florida, 45 against Ole Miss, 32 in the win against Bama. They've had some pretty good, better offensive performances. Not so much last week. And like I said, Daniels was a little banged up, but I think LSU can push across enough offense and points to help that game go over the total. What do you think here, boss?
Hey, in the words of Denzel Washington on training day, it's chess, not checkers, Hoyt. You got to look at this game from my man Brian Kelly's perspective.
Good reference.
He's played in these big games before. It's not a big deal to him. And his whole thing of coming to the SEC was to get the athletes that he could play in these big games for him. So I'm pretty sure he's going to be prepped up and everything for this game, quite beyond what we're thinking a lay down LSU team was, considering what happened last week. And knowing Kelly, it might have been a play down. Let's not do too much against this Texas A&M game. That way we can hold a couple secrets so we can go into this Georgia game and maybe get a win out of this. So I think Brian Kelly definitely comes to win. I don't think he should be 17.5-point underdog in this one. So give me them plus 17.5 with Brian Kelly going against this Kirby Smarts. Kirby Smarts is a young guy. This is the old GOAT versus the young guy. Same situation we had last night with USC and Utah. So this is the old guy coming in here with his new athletes. And, sometimes he gets them underneath them and they follow his direction and they do well, but sometimes they veer off on their own and they mess up as well. So this is a very talented Georgia team, size, speed, everything, but it's SEC play. These teams are designed to play against each other. We've seen Tennessee throw the goalposts in the water. So LSU definitely got a shot in this one. They may not have the advantage of playing at home or any of those type of things, but going in this, I think they definitely got a shot. Georgia has to bring their A game. They have to want to win this SEC championship, like you guys said. But I think they definitely need the back door open. 17 and a hook is just the hook just been sitting there, no money coming in or on either side right there. Give me the 17 and a hook in the championship week. I'll take it with Brian Kelly. Let's go.
There you go. Brian Kelly, let's go. Making amends with his old head coach from Notre Dame, Big Boss here with LSU plus the points today against Georgia. There's a lot of points. We'll see if I do like the point Big Ragoo made, though, about Georgia. They lost to Alabama last year in the SEC championship game. Then they got them back in the national championship game, of course. So they didn't win the SEC title game. They lost in this game last year. They don't want that feeling again. Even though they're in the playoff regardless. They're locked to be in the playoff even if they lose today, Georgia. But I don't think they want to go 2 years in a row without the SEC championship game being part of their resume, SEC championship being part of their resume. All right, we got 2 games left, both of them the primetime games tonight. ACC championship, Clemson, North Carolina. Clemson 7.5 point neutral field favorites here. This one in Charlotte. The total 63 and a half in this game. North Carolina hasn't looked quite as good the last few weeks. That's the one little hang up I have, but they lost to Georgia Tech, but that was a complete flat spot. They had already locked up the ACC championship spot. Totally lackadaisical in that game. I don't really penalize them too much. And then, of course, a heartbreaking loss to NC State, their rivals last week, 30-27 in overtime. Very, very tough loss because they came back, they tied it, but they end up losing in OT. Kicking issues for North Carolina as well. That's something that would concern you a little bit here, but I can't lay more than a touchdown with Clemson at the moment because you would think ACC championship, hey, this is still something to play for, being still a big New Year's Six bowl game, but when you're always in the playoff mix, it seems every year. Now this is 2 years in a row, Clemson not in the playoff mix. What do you get from them here in this spot? Big question. And more than anything, this is not so much, disappointment they're not in the playoff. This is the matchup dictating that I don't know if Clemson's going to be able to win going away because that secondary is a big mess right now. Okay, there's now multiple times that secondary's been shredded for Clemson this year. Sam Hartman and Wake did a number on that Clemson secondary. Notre Dame, had a great offensive night against Clemson when they beat the Tigers. Look at what Spencer Rattler in South Carolina did last week to Clemson's secondary in that 31-30 victory. That pass defense has got holes all over it right now, and that could be trouble against Drake May and the North Carolina offense because we know he can throw that football, and there could be some opportunity to make plays in the passing game against this vulnerable Clemson secondary. On the flip side, this is the North Carolina defense. We just saw them give up 31 last week in the loss to NC State. You would think DJ Uiagalelei, Will Shipley and company are going to have their share of success moving the ball. So this is definitely an overlook to me as well. The betting markets agree because the total's gone up a couple points from 61 to 63 for this game tonight. But more than a touchdown, I'm going to take a shot with the Tar Heels. And I believe the Tar Heels in the underdog role this year are a perfect ATS team. Yeah, 4.5 point dogs against Wake Forest. I took North Carolina that night. They won that game 36-34 outright. 4 point dogs at Miami. They won outright 27-24. Think about that. Back on October the 8th against Miami, they were actually underdogs, North Carolina. Back when Miami, they were still getting priced like a respected team. And, of course, they had a horrible season under Cristobal. 4 point dogs, they won that game outright. And then 3.5 point dogs against App State, North Carolina, and they beat them in that crazy 63-61 shootout early in the season. So that's 3-0 ATS for North Carolina as underdogs this year. And I'm going to take them here, plus the 7.5, plus 8 in this ACC title game. Conor Mac, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm going to wait on this game. It seems like there'll be a bunch of points in this one. You hit it on the head, though. Carolina is a dog. Winners, as soon as they're a favorite, don't take them. Fade them away with that shitty defense because this seems like the back door could be open a little bit. I think Clemson wins. It's just you want to take them here with the hook. I think they win this football game in the end. I just don't love this game all the way around. There should be points. It should get over, but it's a wait and see for me.
I'm going to throw it out there with Clemson, why I have doubts they can win by margin tonight. Wake Forest, good team that they played, won by 6 in overtime. NC State's the one good team that they played that they did win by 10, like double digits. But NC State had quarterback injuries at that time. Keep that in mind. Florida State, 6-point win. Syracuse, 6-point win. They obviously had the blowout loss to Notre Dame. And then, of course, South Carolina, they lose last week. I mean, they did destroy Louisville and Miami, but Louisville's mediocre. Miami stinks. So I think there's enough evidence here, and the matchup too. Like I say, I think that secondary could be vulnerable tonight for Clemson against that North Carolina pass game with May. So put it all together, I'm taking the points. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
I've been saying it all season long. North Carolina plays up and down to their opponent's level. All the games, and you know what? Clemson also. If you look at, like you said, you hit the nail on the head. You said all their games that they haven't won by margin, closer games, right? So this sets up for that same scenario on both sides of the football, and I think points are going to come. You know, more so on the Clemson side, but I think Carolina's going to get their share of points too. So I lean over hard here, but I was looking towards the team total, and I'm going to take the lower team total on Carolina because I think the points are going to come. Carolina's sitting right now at 27.5. I think Clemson, you know, they're up to give up the passing yards. You know, what they do at Florida State, Wake, you know, these are games that they're going to be right in the thick of things, but there's going to be points here. To me, that's the easier play to get Carolina to get 4 touchdowns in the spot here. Give me that all day long. I'm on Carolina over 27.5 points.
Drake May, guy's been phenomenal all year long.
I mean,
AC player. I mean, he can straight sling it.
Yeah, there'll be a quarter where they get like 2 touchdowns, and then, you know, they'll get a touchdown here and a touchdown there. So, and then, you know, lean over to 63.5. You know, if it goes over, then you know Carolina's going to score more than 4 touchdowns if the game goes over.
Yeah, exactly. I'm fascinated to know how many of these teams go over the total because we've started out conference championship weekend with 2 overs already. You know, UTSA North Texas went over the total, and it was late, and it was, jailbreak touchdown at the end for Utah to put it over, but that game still went over as well. So a 2-0 start with overs in these title games this weekend. We'll see how many of them also go over the total today. What do you think here, DJ Big Boss?
I like North Carolina plus 7.5 and the over as well, but I won't get to the winner with either one of them. I don't want to take North Carolina.
That whack brown bias, of yours.
Yeah, I don't want to do that, and that
prevent you from betting.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't play no defense. If I was in that spot, then you got Clemson that might get up on them, and so I don't like that spot as well. And then the over, I don't want to sit around all day and wait for that over because Clemson, they can play defense at times, but I don't think they can slow this North Carolina team down. But I'm not sure if Clemson can match those points. So I think North Carolina got a shot at winning this game, to tell you the truth, but I just don't trust them enough to play it.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that. It should be a good one there. Clemson, North Carolina. And like I say, we'll see if North Carolina can pick on, because I certainly would, if I'm Phil Longo, the offensive coordinator, I'm definitely looking to pick on that Clemson secondary because the more I watch it, the more it stinks. Yeah, exactly. So, that's the thing. Clemson's pass defense has not been great this season, and they've been shredded at times in the passing game, and North Carolina's got the weapons to do that. We'll see if they're able to take advantage. All right, the final game of this conference championship Saturday, Big Ten championship, Indianapolis, home of the Colts is where this game is going to be played. Purdue and Michigan. Michigan 16.5 point favorites, 51.5 the total in this one. I'll tell you what, Michigan, obviously we know they've played outstanding football. One of their best performances of the season, saving it for Ohio State last week, especially that second half. I mean, you got to give Harbaugh credit. I mean, that Harbaugh and his coaching staff completely did a number on Ryan Day and his coaching staff in that second half. I mean, it was just a great game plan. The run game, just pound the football relentlessly at Ohio State. take time off the clock, wear them down physically, and that's exactly what they did in that second half, and it worked out perfectly. You saw the celebrations. This meant a lot to Michigan because there were people going into that rivalry game last week that said, okay, Michigan finally beat Ohio State once in Ann Arbor the week before at the Big House. Let's see them do it again in Columbus where they hadn't won in 22 years. Well, they put that narrative to rest. They went into Columbus and just won going away, just beating up Ohio State in that second half. But is there an emotional letdown and hangover from that? There shouldn't be. This is a Big Ten championship game, and you're trying to complete an undefeated season. But that's easier said than done. That you're just going to be able to step on the field and not be a little bit worn down physically, mentally, emotionally after what we saw last week in that game against Ohio State. So I think that could be a concern for Michigan, especially when you're laying these kind of points. I mean, you're not just having to win this game against a well-coached, solid enough Purdue Boilermakers team. You've got to win this game by margin here as well. I kind of think Purdue could take advantage of this early, maybe catch Michigan a little bit, needing some time, needing a quarter or two, maybe to fully get going. And as we've seen with Michigan all season, they've been a great second-half team. Remember the Rutgers game, Indiana game. There's been so many games on their schedule where they've actually been a little bit lackluster in the first half, and then they just pour it on in the second half, and then the run game gets going. Let's see if Blake Corum plays, but even if he doesn't, obviously we saw enough from Donovan Edwards to trust him running the football. He was outstanding in the absence of Blake Corum. They'll be able to run the football, regardless of who's in there, I think. But I think it could take some time for Michigan to ramp themselves up following last week. So I think a Purdue first half look makes a little sense to me in this one. Purdue, you can get plus 9.5 at most spots with a Purdue first half in this game. I do like that. I did bet that Purdue first half in this game because I don't know if Purdue's run defense, even though the numbers are not bad for them against the run, if they're going to hang tough and hang in there for 4 quarters against Michigan's rush attack if it gets going. But I think in the first half, with Michigan's propensity to start slow all season long in multiple games, coming off the emotion of that great victory against Ohio State last week, Purdue can hang early in this game. So I like the Purdue side in the first half in particular. Plus, I'd lean to them full game as well, but I definitely like the first half look more because I think in the second half, Michigan might do Michigan things and just take over that game, which is something they have done a lot this year. Ask Indiana, ask Rutgers, ask Ohio State last week. Just turned a close game in the second half into a romp once they got that rushing game going. J.J. McCarthy deserves a lot of credit. This kid keeps getting better and better at the quarterback spot as well. Dual threat, can run it. His passing ability has gotten more steady and more consistent as well. So that could wear down Purdue as the time goes on. Michigan's secondary played great last week. But before that, they had some games where they gave up some plays. And obviously the strength of Purdue offensively is the pass game with Aiden O'Connell. Will they be able to make enough plays in the passing game to hang tough in this game? But I do like Purdue early. Plus 9.5. I think if you like the Boilermakers, you at least want to split it up between the first half and the full game. If not, just look at the first half because I think early in the game could be a little bit of a Michigan hangover. Just my gut feel that it could take Michigan at least a little bit to get themselves fully invested and fully into this Big Ten title game tonight. What do you think here, Conor Mac? Big Ten championship, Purdue, Michigan.
Yeah, I'm the same. We talked about it on Monday. I'm 5-0 with it. Illinois as well. That game, I mean, Michigan's just been a little bit slow out of the gates, a little bit after the huge win. I'll be on Purdue early here. You could even look first quarter. I don't know if I go that way, but I'm on first half plus 9.5. And then I'll look to Michigan live and take them after that. They've been that great second half team. You mentioned Purdue decent against the run, but they've given up some games. And if Michigan, I think, wins at the line of scrimmage, I'd love it if they would be down. Would be even better and maybe take them live. But I'm right with you. Purdue first half here plus 9.5.
Yep. Yeah, Corum will be out.
I think O'Connell is big here.
Yep.
Don't turn it over because he has, at times, guy can throw it around, but don't make a mistake. That's only here in the first half. That kind of could be the hiccup. But he takes care of the ball. I think they can first half.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and I think I'm sure Jeff Brom knows too. Like, don't feed the beast for Michigan here. If you're Aiden O'Connell, protect the football. Don't force it. if there's not an open receiver, you don't have to throw
Yeah.
it in that direction. Just make sure you don't commit that costly turnover. That's important in a game like this, especially when you need everything to go right in order to have a chance here against a team like Michigan. What do you think here, Big Ragoo?
Yeah, Michigan really doesn't have to go out to prove anything in this game. Yeah, they want to win the game. More than likely, they are going to win the game. But Purdue, you can't really sleep on Purdue. This game has backdoor written all over it. But like you said, with what Michigan's done in second halves of football all season long, I'm not going to give them any opportunity to kind of flub that up. But even if Michigan was to lose this game, they would still be sitting at the number 2 or 3 spot. So they have nothing really to lose other than the Big Ten championship was what they really want to win. But the number is pretty tall, and it kind of tells you how the game is going to be set up with the lower total here. Typical Big Ten matchup, but Michigan's been special, especially in the second halves, and Purdue. They're going to have to make it go out of it through the air, which they can do. So I think they're probably, like you said, they won't want to turn the ball over, let it get out of hand a little early. I think they play a tighter game on both sides of the football. And I'm with you. I kind of lean Purdue first half, but I like the under 27 points in the first half even better. So that's going to be my play. I think Michigan's going to ground and pound it. Purdue's not going to try to make the mistakes, and I think we'll see some back and forth between the hashes and the 20s. Not too many red zone opportunities early on, but probably close to the second half going forward. Then we'll see probably the game open up a little bit. But for the most part, I think under 27 is a good look here, first half.
All right, there. Liking the first half under here in this one, and I think that probably goes hand in hand with the fact that it may take Michigan time to get going. And even last year, I mean, it was 42-3 it ended for Michigan over, but that Iowa team had zero offense. It's two totally different teams. Purdue actually does have an offense, and even in that game, it was 14-3 at halftime. So it was a lower scoring first half. It took Michigan a while. All of Michigan's points to turn that into a blowout against Iowa came in the second half, and especially in the fourth quarter of that game. So first half under would have cashed last year in the Big Ten championship game as well. So first half under for Big Ragoo here with Purdue and Michigan. Boss, what do you like here?
I've been doing good taking Big Ten dogs. Last week it was so-so, but week before that they were spot on. This is a conference where these two try to get each other. But Purdue, how did Purdue get here? I'm not 100% sure how they got here, but they got here, and that's great for them. But I'm not sure about this Michigan team and the mission that they're on. I don't think this could be a hangover spot because they beat Ohio State so well last week that I think that they probably gather that momentum and move forward right here. So I kind of want to take Purdue. I really like what you guys are doing first half with Purdue. I think it might be a little more value taking the number, for the full game with hoping a backdoor or something like that. But how far does Purdue play before they check out? Do they check out after being down 10, 17, 24? But, if Michigan does what they known to do, they'll probably push Purdue into a predicament where they probably want to check out the game and just hope that Michigan does well in the playoffs so they can say, hey, we played that team. But this is a game you probably have to bet live. Find the spot. Like if you like the under, let it get as high as it's going to get and then try to find you a number that's going to go under. And if you like the over, then just see what they're going to do in the first few possessions and then mark a spot right there. But definitely something you got to play live right here because it's kind of ticky-tacky in the Big Ten right now.
There you go. USA is not done yet. And this, if anyone cares, I don't know how many people are soccer fans out there in our group that watches.
What is it, 2-1?
2-1. They just scored, on the Netherlands there. So, and there's
What minute?
15 minutes left. So still got time to salvage this if you're the U.S. and maybe find your way to maybe extra time and this round of 16 match in the World Cup. So definitely. Like I say, this is I always jokingly say USA's in the World Cup. This is the 2 weeks of the year people care about soccer in the United States. So there you go. I always joke about that, but no, I know it's obviously the biggest global sport, but North America not so much. But USA, even me, like I'm not the biggest soccer fan. I'm watching the World Cup though. It's the World Cup. It's a big event. So, but yeah, it's some of the things about soccer are tough to watch. I don't like the embellishment. I hate that there's penalty kicks that decide these tied games after extra time. It's just like that would be like deciding the World Series on a home run derby. Or deciding the NBA title winner on a 3-point shooting
That'd be fucking
competition
wild.
or a slam dunk competition. Or let's not play overtime in the Super Bowl. Let's do a longest throw competition with the two quarterbacks, or field goal kicking competition, or something like that. I mean, it's not the way you want to decide your championships. There's no way, so a penalty kick bothers me. Shootout to when in these tied matches, when these elimination matches, it bothers me. But that is another issue. Great stuff with DJ Big Boss, Big Ragoo, and Conor Mac here for another edition of the College Football Pub Show. We got 2 shows left. Next Saturday, December 10th, we'll do Army-Navy, and we'll also do the first half of the bowl schedule next Saturday, and then we'll do the second half of the bowl schedule, breaking down the games the following Saturday, December 17th. And then that'll be it for the Saturday morning college football shows. We will have a college football pub-up show Monday, January 9th, the day of the national championship game at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And we will obviously be turning the Saturday show into a college basketball net profit show starting in January, the Saturday after New Year's Day. So at this time. So that's the plans coming up in the future. No college basketball show, Jake, on the weekends until we get to, although we will have a Saturday show starting in January. And then, of course, Monday to Friday as usual.
Next week, I'll give some looks and stuff, going forward on the bowl game. We can do that.
Yeah.
Real quick at the end.
Exactly. You know what? To be honest with you, I'm only going to start to look at the college basketball card today for the first time after this show. So I can't really say much about it right now because I haven't looked into it a whole lot yet.
I do the same. I'm doing it. I do it after the 5 football on Saturday last few weeks.
Yeah, no doubt. Absolutely. Great stuff from everybody. Thanks to everyone in the chat, too, that joined us. 10 a.m. Eastern on a Saturday. I know it's not easy. We all want to sleep in, believe me. But you join us every Saturday for the show. We appreciate it very much. Hit the like button on the way out. And a reminder, UFC Orlando live bet stream tonight. Kevin Holland and Stephen Wonderboy Thompson here tonight, the main event. So make sure you check them out if you're into that UFC card tonight here on Pub Sports Radio. All right, we'll wrap the show up coming up with best bets right after we hear from Manscaped and Southtown 101. All right, Southtown 101. When you're in San Antonio, Texas, stop in. Great food, drinks, live music, DJs, karaoke. Southtown 101 and Manscaped.com. Promo code PubSports. Get 20% off your purchase of anything on the Manscaped.com website with promo code PubSports. All right, best bets for Conference Championship Saturday. Conor Mac, we'll start with you. What do you like for best bet?
Let's go right to it. Right now, this game in the morning. Kansas State first half, plus a half. Even if we get a tie score, you win. I think they come out fired up here. So K-State first half. And check out Cab. I don't know if Razor's going to be on there too. They're coming right after us. Check that game out live bet stream. K-State TCU.
Thank you for pointing that out. I'm looking for it in the list of shows here on the StreamYard account for Pub Sports Rec. Oh, there it is. Yes, Kansas State TCU. Yes, and they're starting. You know what's nice? We'll be able to finally finish one of our shows before they start the bet stream because they're going to try to start at 12:45. So we will be done by then for a rare Saturday. So that's the good. Dabby Cab, there you go. Check it out. Kansas State TCU live bet stream coming up right after us here on Pub Sports Radio. Oh, bad news, USA 3-1 now for Netherlands. So that could be the dagger goal right there with 8 or 9 minutes left in the match. 2-goal lead in soccer with less than 10 minutes left is almost insurmountable in this sport usually. All right, so that's that. Big Ragoo, what do you got for us? Best bet.
Let's talk SEC championship, folks. Multiple outs on this one. We're gonna hit the over here. I think we get there if Georgia wins in high scoring fashion, or LSU steps up a little bit. Either way, Georgia's getting theirs. LSU contributes or not, Georgia's getting theirs over the total SEC championship game.
All right, there it is. LSU Georgia over 52 SEC championship game for Big Ragoo with his best bet. DJ Big Boss, what do you got? Best bet.
I'm going to go with an over 2. Let me get the over in the Boise State game. Even though despite the rain and conditions, I think Fresno State keeps the pedal to the metal and Boise figures out a way to score and we get over the total.
I think we got good weather, boss.
Yes.
I think it's clear.
Clear and light wind.
That's even better. That's even better.
Beautiful weather. 33 degrees. Get it.
Fucking right it is.
Weather, baby.
For Boise, Idaho on December the 3rd. Damn right it is. Yeah. You'll take that and you'll take that a million times over, weather like that. Not too cold, clear skies, light wind. Absolutely.
Love it.
I mean, they lucked out. Fresno especially lucked out because they're the California kids.
Yeah.
You know, it's obviously going to be a lot better, more tolerable the weather for them here in this game. So looking forward to that game. There's DJ Big Boss's best bet over the total. Fresno State, Boise State for his best bet. My best bet, I'm going to go North Carolina plus the 8 against Clemson in the ACC championship game. Yeah, best bet against Dabo Swinney and Clemson. Say it ain't so, but I don't like that secondary and their chances of matching up against that passing game in North Carolina. This is now the second straight year for all these guys that have been there and then again snuffed out of the playoff. I mean, I'm not saying the ACC championship game isn't exciting to them and doesn't mean anything to them, but you know, I think for North Carolina, they haven't won, I think, an ACC championship game ever. This is an opportunity for them to make history, and I think that secondary for Clemson, you can pick on them, and Drake May, the kind of quarterback that can take advantage of that. So North Carolina, 3-0 ATS as underdogs as well this year. I think they make it 4-0 tonight. North Carolina plus 8 against Clemson for my best bet for this Saturday conference championship slate. That'll wrap up this edition of College Football Pub Hub. Thanks to everyone in the chat for joining us this morning and all season long. Hit the like button on the way out. We appreciate it very much. Dabby Cab and the live bet stream for Kansas State TCU coming up next. Conor Mac, Big Ragoo, DJ Big Boss. I'm Ian Cameron. Have a great Saturday. Enjoy the games and good luck. Let's cash some tickets. We'll see you again next Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. First part 1 of our 2-part bowl previews next Saturday, and we'll also talk Army-Navy, the annual traditional game that we love, Navy-Army, on next Saturday's show as well. Join us then, 10 a.m. Eastern next Saturday for another edition of the College Football Pub Hub Show right here on Pub Sports Radio.
Welcome to another edition of The Barking Dead.
Welcome, everybody, to another episode of EPL on
Class is in session, hitting the books on Pub Sports.
This is another exciting edition of the main event on Talking And.